I mean, if you're a Bears fan, you're thinking forward progress. Come on.
10, 219, 219.
Forward Progress, a Chicago Bears podcast with Dan Bernstein and Matt Abaticola on 312 Sports.
We award you Forward Progress on 312 Sports. Dan Bernstein and Matt Abaticola with you on this Thursday. We are now 2 days away from the Bears and the Packers, all that it means and all that's at stake. So let's check in with somebody who's got the eyes and ears in the Bears locker room and up and around Hallis Hall. He is Herb Howard of the Bigs Media. Herb Howard 411 on socials. What's happening? What's the latest? Herb, how are you?
Damn, man, I'm good. Thanks for having me. How y'all feeling?
We're feeling good, man. There's a lot of anxiety and nervous energy and excitement about this game. Herb, it's been a blink of an eye. This season has gone by. We just started this Bears podcast back in August, and here we are now at a wild card playoff game. And I don't want it to end. I want to be able to talk about more next week than just this game. I want it to keep going on. So, yeah, lots of excitement, lots of energy. What are you getting around Hallis Hall this week about the energy level, given the performance that we saw in Week 18 against the Lions?
I mean, there's just an energy around the entire city, right? The entire greater Chicago area just has this buzz to it. I was out to dinner last night, and I'm still kind of getting used to this happening to me. It's not like I'm Dan Bernstein or anything like that.
You don't want to be.
People just kept like coming up to me like, "What do you think? What do you think? What do you think?" I'm like, "I think the same thing you think." I'm nervous. I'm excited. I'm cautiously optimistic. It's the Packers. It's the Bears. It's playoffs. Like, I want to believe that they're going to go up there and win. I don't feel comfortable saying. I mean, they're going to go out there and win. I don't feel comfortable saying that. And the energy with the team is just workmen. Like they one of the best things they've been able to do this year is to be able to lock in and focus on what's right in front of them and not make it bigger or smaller than what it is. And I think the first challenge they had to do that was coming out of the game at Lambeau when they lost. And would they be able to focus in on a potential trap game opponent in the Cleveland Browns, or would they be so hyper-focused on the Packers coming back 2 weeks later that they couldn't even get ready for the Browns? They passed that test with flying colors and beat the Browns like they should have beat the Browns. Then they had the opportunity to go back and play Green Bay again. We know what that game was, the thriller, that how it ended. Now, could they come down from that emotional high and get ready to go on the road across the country to play a really good San Francisco team? And they were up for that task as well. Obviously didn't win, but they showed themselves well enough to compete in that game. So I think every time they've been kind of met with the need to kind of lock in and focus on what's right in front of you, they've risen to the occasion.
I found it really interesting that Ben Johnson took it upon himself to say the offense wasn't good enough. The defense only allowed 19 points, and the offense wasn't good enough. And I know that's him taking responsibility, and I get that. But he's also the head coach of the team. And I was a little surprised that he didn't take the opportunity to say, our defense is giving up too many yards. Regardless of anything or everything else that's going on, they've given up in the last three, 1,300 some yards at this point.
Yeah.
And it left it to Dennis Allen yesterday to answer for the defense. It was a day earlier than usual because of the schedule. But even so, it's, we're good in the red zone and we didn't allow that many points, and that's what matters. And it's not good enough for me. The explanation of, and we'll get into why Tyreek Stevenson didn't play because I'm not sure I really understand that. But where's the accountability for a defense that is getting worse?
Well, I think that one of the things that interests me kind of throughout this season is how Coach Johnson kind of separates the two sides of the ball as though they're different teams. Mm-hmm. He speaks and he says, they, them, and then us, right? The defense is them, the offense is us. And I understand that being a reality, that he brought Dennis Allen in here veteran defensive coordinator, head coach experience to kind of run the defense, and I'll take care of the offense. And I know that's kind of how they do it, but it just sounds strange when you make it so this clear line of distinction between the two when there's this us and there's this them thing. And I think he just doesn't want to step on their toes or throw them under the bus in that way. It's a respect thing that I think he has for DA and what they're doing on that side of the ball. I also think there is some truth to the fact that, 19 points is 19 points. You go out there and your opponent scores 19. You expect to win the game. You should win that game, especially as an offensive-minded head coach. You're like, yeah, are we going to score 20? Of course we're going to score 20. So I think some of that is legit how he feels, and then some of it is just how he's separated the two all season long.
What have you observed about the relationship that they have as far as Ben Johnson's inputs or activity within the defensive side of the football?
Yeah, I think they've had a great working relationship. I think they do well to kind of collaborate on what this week's game plan is going to be. I think that Ben Johnson does well in kind of advising DA on what he thinks, some of the opposing team's offensive strengths are, or what they may want to do. And I think DA does the same thing for Ben in terms of the defenses. I think they work well together in terms of coming together for what the overall game plan is going to be. But then after that, I think Dennis Allen is kind of left alone. You kind of look at how they operate on the sideline during the games, and when the offense is up, Ben Johnson's front and center, and he's doing this thing. And when the defense is up, DA is front and center, and he's doing this thing. And I think that's just kind of how they do it. And for the most part, I think it works. I think this defense they just are who they are. It is what it is at this point. And so, the questions about, the run defense or the lack of a pass rush or any of that stuff, they are who they are. They give up a ton of yards between the 20s. They try to be stingy in the red zone, and they take the ball away. If they can't play stingy in the red zone, they can't take the ball away, they'll give up 50 to anybody. If they can play stingy red zone defense and they get their couple of takeaways a game, then they'll keep the Bears in the game, and the offense needs to go do its part. That's just what it is. I don't have any other expectation for them on Saturday either. If they can play good red zone defense and take the ball away, they'll have a chance to win. If they don't do those things, they will still give up a ton of yards between the 20s, and then they'll also give up the points that'll cost them the football game.
The Bears veteran starting safety Jaquan Brisker said in no uncertain terms, "We got out-schemed." Said they were in man against the Lions. It's why you had cornerbacks trailing these receivers across the middle of the field on these deep ins and the deep digs, which is where it's where Ben Johnson ideally would like to play the football. Had to have his passing game find those spots. The Lions did it, and they kept doing it. Brisker called it out. Was Allen presented with that to respond to it?
I thought the same thing, but I think I feel like they had a pretty vanilla game plans going into that game. Now, I don't know if that was about, what was or was not at stake or what they did or did not want to show. The Packers know them as well as anybody, so I don't know what there's to hide at this point. But I just don't think that they are a really good man coverage team. I think the one guy that they have that's capable of covering a receiver in terms of, drag routes that are 40 yards across the football field is Kyler Gordon. He hasn't played this season, right? And so Jalen Johnson is a shell of himself. When he first came back, I asked him in the postgame in the locker room, how long does he think he has enough time to get back to his form, right? We've seen him play at an all-pro level, and he was like, nah, I don't think I can get back there in the amount of time that I have left. He's like, I'm going to do all the work and do everything I can to be as good as I possibly can, but I don't think I can get back to my, peak form. And that's proven to be true. He doesn't look like the Jalen Johnson that we're used to seeing playing. He's getting a little bit better each week, but he still doesn't look like himself. And so, they don't have guys that can cover these receivers, especially when you talk about the lack of pass rush, right? They're back there 4 or 5 seconds doing whatever they want to do. And that's tough on anybody, but especially tough on guys like C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who's great in the box, 12 to 15-yard range. He's good in run support. He can come off the edge and blitz. He's good even sitting in the zones, and he's got a couple of interceptions. But you ask him to cover these wide receivers man-to-man across the entire field, he's going to get exposed, and that's just what we saw out there on Saturday. Did they play too much of it? Probably, but I mean the Lions, they run so many drag routes with those receivers. It's gonna happen anyway. You don't want Jared Goff just sitting back there because he'll pick apart your zone as well. So I think they tried to mix it up. Yeah,
he was good against zone too. We should note.
What happened with Tyreek Stevenson throughout the course of this year? We saw him the first half of the season. He was probably their best defensive back they had, and he made some great plays. Has one of the highlights of the season in that Cowboys game, and stealing that ball away on the sideline. And then he splits time with Jalen Johnson for a half against, I think, the Niners game, and then he doesn't get any snaps at all against the Lions. And we're not really getting a clear, at least what I'm feeling, is a clear answer about Tyreek Stevenson.
Yeah, that's been interesting to me, and I get it, but it's. As long as I've watched football, there have been two outside corners, right? And like now you have the nickel corner, and that's prevalent in the game, but none of those three are nickel corners. You get two outside corners. That's it. Mm-hmm. And if they feel like that Jalen Johnson and Deshaun Wright are the two best that they have, then the third guy's just not going to play. That's just what it is. And so Jalen Johnson goes down. Deshaun Wright comes out of nowhere. He leads the league in takeaways. He has the season that he has. He's got a great relationship with Al Harris. They work well together. He's gotten the most out of him. And at some point, they just felt like Deshaun Wright is outplaying Tyreek Stevenson. And then Jalen Johnson comes back. And so you have a little bit of a rotation as they work Jalen Johnson back in. But once Jalen Johnson was going to be good to go to play, 100%, I think he played 99% of the snaps, 100% of the snaps, then it's going to be two corners. I haven't really seen a outside corner rotation that lasts over any significant amount of time unless you're kind of working in a young corner. That's not the case here. So I don't really think it's much of a thing. Like they just decided that Deshaun Wright is playing better than Tyreek Stevenson. And if that's the case, then you play your top two and the third guy just doesn't play unless something happens to the other one. I'm not saying that's true. I'm not saying he is better than Tyreek or he isn't. It's just, if that's what they determine, those are the two they're going to play. Right,
but Herb, and you're not wrong. I mean, you're not wrong at all. It's just, I think the way they've gone about putting this out there, it seems like there's more to it. And they could easily squash it and just say, hey, Jalen's back, he's 100%, and we're good to go with Jalen Johnson. And there are two outside cornerbacks, and these are our two, and this is how our depth chart goes. And we're very confident in Tyreek Stevenson. And if one of these guys goes down or needs to come out, we're very confident he can step in and fill that role at a very high level. But the fact that they're kind of not answering anything, and it seems to leave doors open that there might be more happening. And then hearing what Dennis Allen said about Tyreek, that we hope that his mindset's there, and we hope that he prepares and he's ready for this weekend. That to me sounds like something happened, or there was something there that took playing time away from Tyreek, and maybe I'm completely wrong, and if you haven't heard or seen that, then maybe that's just all it comes down to. But I think they could squash that easier by saying, hey, this is our depth chart, these are our two guys, and we believe in Tyreek, and if he's called on, he's going to do a great job as well too.
No, I agree with you 100% on that. That would be a very easy thing for them to do. But I also look at it and just say this. I can see that happening. You know what I mean? And so that's just, if those are the two guys out there, that's just the conclusion that I come to. Mm-hmm. I also have concerns about, Tyreek's temperament and is he going to be negatively impacted to the point where he's not prepared when his number is called. I don't know if that's the case, but I do have that concern about him. But yeah, I'm right there with you, Matt, that they could nix the whole thing by just saying, hey, we think these are our top two guys and we're going to go. I will say this. When Jalen Johnson was preparing to come back, I asked Al Harris what was going to happen then in terms of Deshaun Wright and how he had been playing. And he said, listen, Deshaun Wright leads us in takeaways. I don't know how you can take that guy off the field. Jalen Johnson obviously is going to come back. He's like, I don't see how we can take him off the field. And so that's just kind of what it's turned into, and I hope Tyreek will be ready if and when he's called upon.
It sounds to me like the choice is that they're willing to live with a wider range of performance to get the top side of Deshaun Wright. When Deshaun Wright's good, when he's making a positive impact, it's game-changing. But when he's making a negative impact, it's real bad too. I do think that you're going to have, if you play Stevenson, you're going to give up some of the great, but you're going to have a different range of outcomes that keeps you a little bit safer. And maybe that's the very definition of a backup. And maybe a lot of this comes down to the judgment on Jalen Johnson, that maybe you need the potential for the big play and you're willing to live with some of the busts that you get in coverage from Wright, because that kind of all or nothing that he's been, you have to take the risk of having the all.
He kind of embodies the entire defense, doesn't he, Nashawn Wright? Like, they're either doing these spectacular things or they're getting their ass whooped all up and down the field. It's kind of it's one of you know what I mean? It's one or the other.
Yeah, that's the reality of it.
Yeah, he's taking the ball away or he's trailing somebody, and that's just what it is. And I think they understand who they are. Going back to what I was saying earlier, either they're going to take the ball away or they're going to give it up anyway. So, like, give yourself the best opportunity to take the ball away because that's who they are.
You know, talking about who they are, it's interesting because on the other side of the ball with the Chicago Bears offense, with Ben Johnson, with their run game, you know, I've looked at the Packers and at their 7 losses this year, and then even looked at that Dallas game where they had that one tie at 40-40. But in those 7 losses, there was a few things that really stood out to me. The Packers lost the turnover battle. The Packers lost the sack battle as well, too. We know the Bears don't do that well. But the one thing that the Bears do well, and this is where the Packers lost these games, is in the run game. And if the Bears need to run this ball 25 to 32 times this game, if they're going to be successful, that's one thing you can highlight and look at in those Packers losses. They gave up a lot of running attempts, which led to rushing yards. Are the Bears going to commit to the run this Saturday against Green Bay? Because Green Bay is susceptible. They can give up big yardage through the run game.
That's their only path to victory, if you ask me, Matt. Like, they have to establish the run game early. They have to lean on it often. They have to win time of possession and just control the flow of the game through their running attack. And I think they have it. They certainly have the ability to do it. The offensive line has played really, really well up front. They've got 2 backs that are more than capable. Just lean on that run game, if for no other reason than to wear down that Packers front, because you expect the Bears to play well in the fourth quarter. Give yourself an even greater advantage by wearing down that defensive front all game long. I think they have to establish the run early, lean on it throughout the game. Do not go away from it. Now, I don't care if it's not hitting early. I don't care if it's 2s and 3s early. You stick with it. You don't turn this thing into some shootout where Caleb's throwing 40, 45. Like, that will be a recipe for disaster. Control the game, run the ball. You got the backs, you got the O-line. Ben Johnson likes to run the ball. He needs to stick to it. I think sometimes he kind of just gets in his head and gets away from it. Stick to it.
Well, what I would like to see also, to take that a step further, and I've been thinking about this, every time people have been bringing up Rome Odunze and his likely return, talking about, well, does he have his speed? Can he make the cuts? Can he do everything in the route tree that he needs to do? And I keep thinking, I want to know if he can run block. That's really what I'm concerned with, is can he be a factor, as he has been in the run game? I know famously the Bears are one of these teams where the coaches like to say no block, no rock, that you are going to earn it. And that, in a lot of ways, watching Luther Burden is what has earned him some of these opportunities. We saw it in the preseason. Remember, his willingness, the fact that he enjoys blocking people. And I don't know if that has something to do with Jahdae Walker taking snaps from Olamide Zaccheaus, or if that's a drop issue, because we tend to look at these moments of receivers just receiving. It's so much more than that, and it's so much more formationally. If they're not going to be in 12 or 13 personnel and you're going to be out there in 11, then you're going to have to run out of these passing formations. And Johnson loves doing that. I think this is one of these weeks, regardless of where the wind is swirling or the snow is coming down and the ice is on the field, that I want to know if Odunze can be effective in the run game.
That's a great, great point, Dan. I think, that's how you turn the 8s into 20s in the run game, right? It's what the receivers are doing. And if they're willing to block, and they're all willing to block, but if they can do it at a high level, and if he's able to come out there and dig his foot in the ground and move guys around in the back end, that's going to help them, pick up those key first downs. That's going to help them sustain drives. That's a really, really good point. And you talk about like the formations that they can do these things out of. I think that's the value of their offense and how multiple they can be and how versatile the players that they have are. That's the value of having two tight ends who, one, can help you in the blocking game, but two, can create mismatches in the passing game. Because as a defensive coordinator, what package do you go into when they are out there and they are in 12 personnel? Like, even in 13, if they bring Durham out there, it's like they can still throw out of this thing, but they can obviously create mismatches in the run game as well if you put, too many defensive backs on the field. So that's going to be a key kind of chess game between, the Bears offense and the Packers defense, and the Bears need to utilize their run game in it, and it's going to be imperative that the receivers are ready and willing to do the blocking job. That's a good point. It really is.
Every once in a while I'm allowed. I was due
once a week.
Yeah,
once a week. Then we'll cap it off there. Luckily, it's Thursday, so week's almost over. Herb, last thing I have for you. You watch this team the entire season. You've seen it from training camp all the way to going for preparation for this wild card game at Soldier Field. And and I know Caleb Williams is the quarterback, and he's the man. But there have been a lot of guys this year that have started early on with Ben Johnson and have grown quite a bit. There's been tremendous growth from several people throughout the course of this season. And it could even be a veteran guy that was brought in. Which one player stands out to you as far as from where that guy was back in April or May or June to where that guy is now, going into the Bears' first playoff game under Ben Johnson? Who stands out to you at the top of that list?
It would be Darnell Wright for me. Right? For me, it has to be somebody who was on the team before. I could look at the guy like Deshaun Wright and just his meteoric rise in and of itself. But for me, Darnell Wright, right, he comes in and he's been solid, since they drafted him. But they drafted him number 10 overall to be a Pro Bowl, All-Pro caliber right tackle, a 10-year, stalwart on that side of their offensive line. And coming into the season, like, They got a good player. I don't know that he, I don't know he's ever going to be a Lane Johnson, Trent Williams caliber guy. This year he's turned into that, and he sustained it, and he dealt with the elbow injury, and he toughed his way through that and continued to play at a high level. What Darnell Wright has done in terms of his ascension to become, one of those guys to tackle. I thought he was a Pro Bowl snub. We'll see what happens with the All-Pro stuff or whatever, but his play has been on par with that level. And so I think Darnell Wright's ascension this season has been a really, really pleasant surprise, something that they absolutely needed to happen. And I think he's done it at a very, very high level all season long. So he would be the guy for me that just took that next step and continued to ascend into the player that they hoped he was when they took him number 10 overall.
That's really interesting, too, because obviously a lot of attention has been paid to the center, the interior of that offensive line with Drew Dahlman and the trades and Tooney and then signing, Jonah Jackson. And that's been a lot of the focus. And we really haven't talked about Darnell Wright at all, with the exception of the elbow injury. That's really when we talked about him. And, of course, for an offensive lineman, it's a great thing because you're not highlighting him every week because he's getting beat and he's getting handled very easily. But it's also, not good for him because we're not giving him the credit or the recognition that maybe he deserves throughout the course of this season, and it's really gone to those guys in the middle. So it's really, I love that you pointed that out because I think I haven't talked enough positive about Darnell Wright throughout the course of this year and just kind of taken him for granted and that solid play along with those guys in the interior for the course of this season.
That's what you want from offensive linemen, though. I mean, he's not a big, rah-rah guy. He's not seeking attention or anything like that. He's kind of soft-spoken. And so, you don't want to talk about them too much, right? I always joke about, having played quarterback a long, long time ago. The guy who's always, like, right there to help you off the ground is the guy who got you sacked. And so that would always make me mad. Like, every time I look up and you're reaching down and picking your hand up, like, I'll get you up. How about you keep me up? Don't pick me up. Keep me up. You know what I mean? Like, everybody else has got their back turned doing their job, and you are looking me in the face. This is a problem, right? And so, those are the guys that kind of stand out, and you talk about them. It's the ones that you aren't talking about that are just doing their job. We don't talk about, Joe Tooney that often because he's just out there doing his thing, right? And I know they revamped the entirety of that interior offensive line, and those guys have all done a really, really good job. But Darnell Wright has done equally as good of a job as they have, and he deserves his credit for that. I've really, really been impressed with Darnell Wright, and I'm excited about his future, man. He's got a great combination of size and athleticism. Once it all came together for him, this is who you hoped he could be.
How many times as a quarterback did you slap those hands away because you were like pissed off? You're like, that's it. Don't pick me up. I'll get up on my own.
I'll just roll over and get myself up. But I don't like you. You're making me mad. Why do I see you? Why are you in my face?
I'm trying to remember. You were at ISU?
No, I was at SIU, and I went to Whitney Young in high school, and then at SIU.
SIU, okay, yeah. Because I was keeping track of all the Redbirds that were around based on their most recent performance and seeing like what happened in that girl. Oh, that coach! I can't believe. How do you zero blitz at the end? Oh my God! Herb, real quick, just one last thing. We're hearing about the weather and the possibilities of it. Are the Bears even thinking about it? Have you heard any acknowledgement that there could be an elemental aspect to everything? For something this big, there could be important aspects of this game completely out of their hands.
I was wondering about a Cairo going down there this week. Like, there have been times before they've gone down to Soldier Field to kick during the week. I feel like at this point, Cairo understands how to play Soldier Field as well as anybody. So I don't know if they actually did that or not. But other than that, no, they're just keeping it pretty much status quo. I think both teams are well-equipped and very experienced in playing in the element, so I don't think that either team will have some great advantage like you would say if one of those West Coast teams came out here, one of those dome teams. Both of these teams are used to playing outside in the cold and the snow and the ice or whatever it's going to be, so I don't think they're too much concerned with it. We will see how it impacts the game, though.
Outstanding stuff as always, Herb. We appreciate it, man.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, buddy. We'll talk to you.
Indeed.
That is Herb Howard of the Bigs Media. Always does tremendous work. And I'm so glad he said what he said when you asked him that question, because I had on my list for this show today something that came out yesterday, and I don't know if you saw this. Did you see the official NextGen Stats All-Pro team? I
did not.
Ooh, I'm so glad you didn't. Would you like me to start with defense and special teams or with offense? I'll let you pick.
I'd like to hear some Bears players called, so let's start with offense.
Okay. On the offense. All right. Okay, Maddie. Here is the NextGen Stats 2025 All-Pro offense.
Okay.
You request it, you get it.
All right.
The quarterback is Drake May.
Okay.
May was the first quarterback since Patrick Mahomes in 2018 to generate over 200 expected points added on his passes.
All right, that's what I was going to ask you, and I'm sure maybe each position is different, but what's the criteria to get this?
There's EPA. He said he was a completion machine despite a high degree of difficulty, leading the NFL with 112 downfield completions, 99 under pressure. His 72% completion rate was 9.1% over expectation, the highest mark by any QB in the NextGen Stats era.
Okay, so Drake May's quarterback.
Drake May beat out Matthew Stafford, yes.
All right. Makes
At
sense.
running back, it's Bijan Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
So Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, and James Cook all earned votes. It's Robinson who rose to the top, gaining 861 yards off missed tackles.
Wow.
100-plus more than any other player since 2018.
How many yards of missed tackles?
861 yards.
Jesus.
At his most elusive in the passing game, averaging 11.2 yards after catch per reception. No player in the 2020s has exceeded that mark. He was the only player in the season in double digits. Your wide receivers are Jackson Smith-Njigba and Puka Nacua.
Mm-hmm.
Nakua's put together one of the greatest 3-year stretches by any receiver to start a career.
Wow.
And Smith-Njigba aligned wide out of 25% of his snaps as the starting X receiver. He totaled 1,378 yards from a wide alignment, the most by any player since Julio Jones. Oh, there's one more wide receiver. They added 3. Sorry. George Pickens.
Oh, okay. Yep.
583 receiving yards versus man.
Wow.
And his plus 253 yards over expected nearly paced all players since 2018, trailing only historic performances by Justin Jefferson in 22 and CeeDee Lamb in 23. The tight end, Trey McBride of the Arizona Cardinals. He was aligned in the slot 43% of the time. He led all tight ends in receptions, yards, and touchdowns from the slot, led all players in the NFL, beating out the slot production of Amon-Ra St. Brown and Puka Nacua.
Wow. And I mentioned yesterday, too, about Colston Loveland. As far as tight ends, lining up in the slot, third most receiving yards for a tight end. So
and that's what we're looking at in modern NFL offense, and especially a lot of this two tight end stuff. Left tackle is Garrett Bowles, who was the only tackle below a 15% pressure rate on dropbacks longer than 4 seconds. Wow. And he allowed a 5.9% pressure rate, the lowest of any left tackle. Left guard, Joe Thuney.
Yep.
The best player on the Bears.
Yes.
It came down to Thuney or Quentin Nelson. Thuney's invaluable role as a veteran cornerstone in Ben Johnson's offense swings the decision. Thuney and Nelson, the only left guards to not allow a sack all season.
Wow.
Thuney posted a 4.5% pressure rate, fourth lowest, and the offensive line jumped from 23rd to 5th in interior pressure rate allowed.
Wow.
Creed Humphrey is the center, Quinn Miners the right guard. The starting right tackle on the NextGen All-Pro team.
Darnell Wright.
Correct.
Really?
Darnell Wright. The margin between Wright and Penei Sewell was razor thin, but the work the young Bears tackle did to help transform Chicago's line from one of the worst last season to one of the best was stunning. Wright allowed only one quick pressure in 2025, making him just one of 2 right tackles to do so among 237 of them with 300 or more pass blocks in a season since 2018. The only other to do that, Tristan Wirfs in 22. Wow. His 0.3% sack rate allowed was third lowest at the position. This is as we just heard from Herb Howard, this was a special season as far as the advanced metrics of NextGen Stats for Darnell Wright.
That's great.
Isn't it?
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, so we talk about the Bears' struggles at offense at times this year, but we've seen the transformation in the run game. We saw DeAndre Swift have his most productive year of his professional football life. And the Bears have been so lucky in the fact that they're from their left guard through their right tackle played, 95, 96, 98% of the snaps?
Mm-hmm.
And when you have that good fortune of health for an offensive line, you're going to win more games than you lose. You're going to be successful, and it's really fortunate. You better. And then you look at the left tackle, and to see what they've gone through there, and to still be as successful in the run game with bringing young guys in, rookies in, guys you thought at the start of the season wouldn't be able to play on an NFL field. It's been really a remarkable job what the coaching staff has done offensively, and that offensive line coach particularly.
Okay, so now as we take a look at the next-gen defense All-Pros, how many Bears do you think made this list? This is defense and special teams. How many Bears?
Defense and special teams. I'm going to say, and it's not going to be the guys I think either. I'm going to say that 11-5 team win their division. I'll say that 2 guys made this team, made the list.
You're off by 2. No guys
Okay.
made this list.
I was wondering if Kevin Byard might have made it, and then I didn't think Nashawn Wright because I thought it was too obvious to not make it. And when you said special teams, I thought maybe Blackwell might have gotten a look, but okay, so 0 Bears.
0 Bears. Your edge rushers are Myles Garrett and Will Anderson Jr., the tackles. Yeah, Jeffrey Simmons and Quinnen Williams. Linebackers, Jack Campbell of the Lions, Eric Wilson of the Vikings, and Quinyon Mitchell of the Eagles.
Okay.
The corners, no surprise, Derek Stingley Jr. and Patrick Surtain the second. Safeties, Kyle Hamilton and Derwin James. It's really the eye test is right there with all of these.
Yeah, for sure.
Will Reichard is the kicker. He of the Vikings beat out Brandon Aubrey because he faltered late. Said Cam Little's record-setting distance made him an enticing option, but Reichard's full body of work outperformed the competition. Seattle's punter, Michael Dixon, made the list. The kick returner is Ray Davis of the Buffalo Bills, and the punt returner is the Titans' Shamere DK.
Okay.
And not a bear to be found, not a bear to be mentioned.
Yeah, no, I mean, not too much of a surprise. I thought, Kevin Byard with the interceptions might have had some kind of statistical numbers that put him in there. And then, again, when you said special teams, I thought Blackwell maybe. But I didn't think Deshaun Wright would be there, and there's really no one else that would stand out, certainly not on the defensive line.
No, I thought, had Tremaine Edmonds not gotten hurt, I thought he was pacing to at least be considered.
Yeah,
because
I just thought with the injuries, though, by both the linebackers, for sure.
Yep.
Would have kept them off the list. Interesting. One other thing real quick, and I mentioned this briefly to her when we had Herb on. I looked at those Packers losses.
Yes.
And I mentioned that the Packers lost the turnover battle in those losses, which isn't a huge surprise. And then the sack numbers too. In those 7 losses for the Packers, they lost the turnover battle 11-5. So it wasn't even close. Yeah. So more importantly is the sack numbers. In those 7 losses, the Packers quarterbacks were sacked 20 times, while the defense sacked the opposing quarterback 5 times. 20-5 in those 7 losses. Now, when you look at that, it doesn't really bode well because the Bears don't get to the quarterback very often. I think what the Bears need to do, though, Dan, is, and I mentioned this with Herb, 25 to 32 carries. Like that needs to be the 25 needs to be the absolute floor for what they're going to do carrying the football. They need to kill the pre-snap penalties. The Bears were 31st in pre-snap penalties. The Giants snuck ahead of them to be the worst. They were 31st in net yards based on penalties at negative 17. And then they were the 8th most flagged team in football. So those are things that Ben Johnson will have to clean up going into next year. So if they're going to beat the Packers, take care of your pre-snap penalties, nothing stupid, those mental errors. I was really disappointed to hear Ben Johnson say they had 6 mental errors in the first 11 plays of that Lions game. That's really disappointing. Take care of the ball, run the football at least 25 times, protect Caleb Williams. They got to take advantage of mistakes. They got to be aggressive without losing their assignments, though, as well, too. Because if you can win that turnover battle and you can get some kind of pressure, I don't know how they're going to manufacture it, but those sack numbers are telling, 20-5. They gave up 20 sacks in those 7 losses while only sacking the opposing quarterbacks 5 times.
Well, and every game that we watch, and man, you can ride with us as you have on Forward Progress, the way we share our unvarnished immediate thoughts right after games. Like you get us before we have read anything or seen anything or watched it. You hear it. How many times have we talked about an almost sack or an potential interception, a tipped ball that fell harmlessly to the ground?
Mm-hmm.
On Saturday night, there can't be any of that.
No, there can't.
On Saturday night, and these are the playoffs now, that this is not, they batted a ball up in the air. You better pick it off. And if there's a ball on the ground, you better pick it up before it goes out of bounds or fall on it and establish possession before it goes out of bounds.
Or if you have a chance to get Jordan Love, you cannot let him get out. You cannot be that half second late. You can't be that guy that almost had the sack. And you've got to get him to the ground.
And the thing is, too, and I've heard some discussion about, hey, Booker had a good game. He batted 2 passes. That's a bad sign. Batted passes are a sign of a bad pass rush. Unless you see a person split a gap, jump in the air, swat at the ball, it is a last-ditch chance by a stymied pass rusher. Understand that's nobody goes into a season with a defensive coach saying, you know what I want a lot of this year?
Batted
knockdowns
balls.
and batted balls. They never say that.
Right.
That's not the goal. That is the way you salvage a failed rushing attempt, a failed pass rush attempt, is I'm not there, I'm blocked, but he can't block me from doing this. And in your head, you're counting 1, 2, 3. I'm not there yet. I'm not getting there, so jump.
Yep.
And when you do that often, it's a bad sign, not a good sign. But if you do it, and if that's all you got is that sort of emergency reaction, you better have everybody who can see that ball ready to react on it.
Yeah, and like we talked about numerous times with this defensive line, they cannot get locked on an offensive lineman. They've got to find a way to get unlocked. And if it's a quicker move and try that move, whatever it might be, they've got to do whatever they have to be unlocked. And just again, looking at these games that the Packers lost in, Cleveland, they gave up 96 yards, so under 100. But Quishon Judkins he was averaging 5.2 yards per carry there in his 19 carries. Just didn't run the ball a whole ton, but they won that game 13-10. The Browns did. Against Carolina, Carolina rushed for 163 yards on 33 carries. The Eagles 111 yards on 34 carries. Denver committed to the run, got 89 yards only on 31 carries. But of course, Green Bay lost the turnover battle there. The Bears ran for 150 yards on 26 carries. Baltimore 307 yards on 53 carries. Derrick Henry had 36 of those. Minnesota ran for 137 yards in Week 18 on 31 carries. The only game of those losses that Green Bay actually won the turnover battle. They won that turnover battle 1-0. Didn't commit any turnovers in that game. But of course, that was a very ugly game. Clayton Tune was the quarterback for the Packers. Jordan Love on sidelines, fully dressed, didn't go in. But still, 137 yards on 31 carries. In the tie to Dallas, they gave up 117 yards rushing on 26 carries. I really hope Ben Johnson is committed to the run. And like we talked about with Herb, even if the first couple drives you're only getting 2.5, 3 yards a carry, stay committed to it. Keep it going because it will open up. Those opportunities will be there. And it's really what his offense is derived on. It starts, he's a run the ball. He's a run the football offensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. That's what he is. Got to stick to it and let opportunities develop for the pass game for Caleb Williams to find some easy targets based on what they're doing with the run game.
Quick mention before tomorrow. I've had some people ask, well, wait a second. It's the third time facing the Packers. You've done the greatest Packers of all time. You have done the infamous Packers of all time. What are you doing for tomorrow on DBU? And the answer is that Matt and I the committee, I should say, yes, individually will be putting together our list of the top 10 most powerful and most memorable playoff moments. Bears playoff history, our personal list of what jumps to mind, what is still remaining in whatever we've got left of our brains, the most vivid Bears memories of the playoffs, specific memories that we have, postseason memories. And I've started doing it after we get done today. I'm really going to dive in, and to sort these out is going to be a chore. To really be honest, to look at it objectively and honestly and say to myself, what really stands out? Where can I close my eyes and know where I was and what I saw and how I felt and sort of register intensity of feeling, for better or for worse.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily just like the great moments, the highlights. It's, the Super Bowl win, or it's not. Yeah, I mean, there are things that if I sit down and think about it, I get more negative and more bad memories that come to the surface.
It's not going to be fun to go to
No,
do this, to do the homework on it. It's going to be fun to talk about, but perhaps not necessarily to re-experience and rip some of these scabs off.
So that's what we'll have for you tomorrow on DBU, and then Forward Progress as well. And then remember, catch the post-game show. It's a post-season post-game show. If you haven't been here for one, you've got to jump in. And so the game, what's the 7:00 game, right? 7:00 game. I'll open the chat room up a little before that, so maybe 6:45ish. So if people have been doing it the last few weeks, They've been getting in there together, watching the games, and then commenting, watching the games together. So through online devices. So we'll have that available for you as well too. I checked in early last week, left a message, said, hey, enjoy the game. Didn't go back through to it though, because I'm too busy watching the game myself.
Yeah, I just kind of looked at the number. At one point, there were like 45 people, I think, and then
hanging out,
just to hang out. And then some people might kind of rage quit, and others might go back in there. And if you need a place to go vent or cry or get a hug or a slap or something, that's a place to do it.
Yep, for sure. And last reminder too, if you haven't gotten the 312 Sports app, go do that. Go to the Apple App Store, Google Play.
Yes.
It's a free app. There's great opportunities to win some prizes as well. It's a great place to source all of the shows that we have here on 312 Sports. So Forward Progress and Dan Bernstein Unfiltered and Organizations Win Championships and From the 50. It's all right there for you on the 312 Sports app. And right now, the giveaways. So make sure you you get the app, you register your account. And then there's opportunities to win dinner for two at Jess Pizza, Morton Steakhouse, The Smith. The promo code for that is the word EAT, E-A-T. And we still have the Guns N' Roses Public Enemy concert in there. Tickets available.
Yep.
The promo code for that is still BEARS, B-E-A-R-S. But you've got to get the app first and then register to get some great prizes we have available for you.
All right, we are counting down to Bears and Packers. Whew, it feels as big as a game that we've had in Chicago sports since Game 7 of the Cubs and Brewers, right?
Yeah, and it feels bigger. I mean, this is the biggest, man, that I can remember in quite some time because of the expectations that are there. The expectations with what Ben Johnson and the Ben Johnson Effect and his band, what they did for the city, for this team, for Caleb Williams, for some young players, Ryan Poles and the guys he brought in free agency and in trades. This is what it was always for, and they get to 11-6. They win the division, and now they're hosting the Packers at Soldier Field with the opportunity to, at minimum, host one more playoff game. You get this win, you're hosting the divisional round too, man. I mean, this is the biggest it's felt in quite some time.
This is Forward Progress, a Chicago Bears podcast on 312 Sports.
Forward progress has stopped. 10 to 19.
Forward Progress, a Chicago Bears podcast with Dan Bernstein and Matt Abaticola on 312 Sports.